Hi, welcome. This is Stephanie Becker, and this is my Module 7 presentation on internal and external publics. And this is for Abilene Schools, USD 435. So to start out with, we're going to focus on our internal communication within my school, which is Kennedy Primary School in Abilene. We serve grades pre-K through first grade within the school that I currently serve a position in as a behavior specialist. So, looking at internal communications and our school, I'll start with our school board first. They have monthly meetings. Those meetings have open sessions where people can come and speak to the board face to face. They also hold special meetings. As well as sessions within those meetings where it's not necessarily always open to the public. The school board, our president is very good at communicating with the district via email, whether that be giving us a great job, a pat on the back, or wishing us a relaxing break. He stays pretty in contact pretty frequently with our teaching staff and our classified staff within our district. The school board also does a nice job of staying up with social media and making posts of recognition on that as well. Our district office houses our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, our data clerks, our technology department, transportation head, as well as our school resource officer. And so they, like most of what you'll see throughout our internal communication within our district, like to communicate face to face if there is an opportunity for that. Otherwise, we typically have daily communication, or as needed is communicated through email. And then we also have information that is communicated from our administration team that meets with our superintendent and assistant superintendent and school board. And that is also communicated face to face through email, or through other means necessary, written as well. Our district also uses district messaging app that sends out messages school-wide to parents, as well as our staff and faculty, so that if we have something, say like a cancellation of school because of snow day, that is something that everyone is immediately notified, which makes it a lot easier than our previous days. For those of you who haven't been teaching as long, it would be a call tree, and there would be times when some people wouldn't answer the call to pass on to the next call. So the district messaging has definitely been something that has improved communication across all levels within the district. I also wanted to just add our superintendent is very good, as well as our assistant, about providing written notes when you've done a good job or they have seen you in action. They'll often send through our school mail a written hand note of recognition of the job that you are doing. Administration, typically, again, we like to communicate face to face. We know that when we communicate face to face, we have less chance of miscommunication. If that is not an opportunity within our building, our administrator uses email every day. We start our day with a daily outlook of what's going to happen, who's going to be gone in our building, just so that we can prep ourselves and be prepared. She also is a part of our administration team, so she has that communication across all buildings within our district, because we are a district that has those attendance centers. So there are majority principals meeting together. We also have a building leadership team, and they are used to communicate on to staff, whether that be during faculty meetings or on days where we have in-services, and they are assigned to communicate about new curriculum or our new grading systems and things like that. I would also say our administrator does a nice job of making it personal, and she does do written notes. Those aren't as consistently used as what email is or text messaging as well. Faculty, again, face-to-face is our priority. That's what we want to do. However, we know that we all lead those busy lives. So, usually throughout the daily, we have those quick phone calls, a text message sent, or an email to communicate when something, when they need help or when they need some input. Those are typically the modes of communication that they refer back to. Faculty wise, we have monthly faculty meetings. It's also communicated. We Things are also communicated within our weekly happenings, which is provided to us the Friday before the following week. And so, again, it gives us just an outlook of what to expect for that coming week. We also our administrator uses a monthly newsletter to keep us in contact with what's going on throughout the district, as well as that is something that is passed on to parents so that we are aware and can answer any questions that may arise from parents as well. Again, I included that district messaging because that is something that we also use as needed throughout the week. If there's changes in a schedule or changes in pickup or a shortened day, that is something that is typically sent out as a reminder as well. Students' preference would be face to face, especially at the level that I work at, pre K through first grade. We aren't pushing out as much email and technology wise as what our upper grades are. And so that is where you will find almost all communication with our students. We have also morning announcements where that just goes over our menu for the day, as well as our values and our pledge of the expectations of our building. We have monthly assemblies to recognize students who are doing a nice job. And we also have daily check ins with some students who have been identified as in need of needing someone to have that face to face contact throughout their day. And visuals are another priority. So I guess you could include those as part of a communication means, especially at our lower level, instead of that written. You're going to have more visuals because they are not yet readers. Our classified staff would include our paras, our aides, our custodians, secretary, our substitutes. We have the opportunity that we have a long-term sub that is in our building every day to fill in where there is needs. So we're really blessed by having them. So it's really important that we communicate with them so that they are on the same page as everyone else within the building. We, again, would rely on face-to-face, morning announcements, meetings, emails, those weekly happenings, as well as the district messaging is going to notify them if by some chance school would be canceled. The long-term substitutes are also invited to our faculty meetings if they can attend, and our professional learning days as well. One other internal communication that I thought would be important to include and that others might not have the same um, experience with is our special education cooperative. And we would prefer definitely to talk face to face with them. However, the cooperative we work under services 12 districts. And so oftentimes it ends up becoming a Zoom meeting or shooting emails back and forth using our web kits to communicate and share documents, as well as we do take advantage of the social media as well. One thing that I will note is that this is an area that I feel like we could definitely improve on with communication, because a lot of times those people underneath that special education cooperative would be people like our speech teachers, our occupational therapist, our physical therapist, our vision and hearing. They are also transient as far as movement throughout the district to different buildings, and there are times when I feel like they kind of get lost in the shuffle of things, and they don't always receive the same communication as what members of our building who are there daily receive. And I reflect on that just because I was a special ed teacher myself and felt that oftentimes I was caught between those two districts. So that gives you an idea, again, about our internal. We really like to keep it face to face as much as possible. However, when it's not, we always rely on the email, text, and morning announcements and those types of things. External communication for us, I was looking at our community groups, thinking that we have church involvement where kids go to after school. We have Boy Scouts, Kiwanis, Rotary, those types of groups. Typically, we would like face to face, but usually what ends up with some of those outer groups is we're relying on the school website or media, as well as having specific meetings and passing out those surveys to be able to communicate effectively between all of us. Parents are a huge external communication for us. Again, face to face is what we prefer. If not, we go to the phone call. Again, there are less things to be misunderstood. There's better communication when you're either face to face or talking to them on the phone. Text messaging and Seesaw are another way to communicate, and sometimes I have had some parents that actually prefer that over the face to face. We use PowerSchool. Families can get updates daily on their students' attendance as well as their grades. Zoom meetings, social media is another one we take advantage of with parents, putting out there what is the need to know as far as games and um, activities and calendar events. We have a district calendar. We have meetings with parents if needed. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out to parents that talks about the upcoming month. We also take advantage of those items on our school website. And we push out things via the local media. We have a newspaper that we use, as well as getting input from them through surveys. I will say surveys is another area that we could definitely take advantage of more. We only do one a year, and I think that there is definitely room for more. Another external communication is our PTO and our booster. Again, we have monthly meetings for those. They basically communicate via social media, as well as our school websites. They use the SportsU app to push out invites to things, as well as notify parents of different meetings that are happening. Our community residents, again, an area that we have communication, it's just not as personable. Definitely, we keep them updated through our websites, social media, and that local media and the newspapers. And I mentioned before, we have a higher percentage of senior population, and I would say they have a tendency to rely more on that local media through the newspaper as their main resource for communication. Partners such as Central Kansas Mental Health, the Community Foundation, the Jeff Coat Foundation, and Little Ike Educators are some partners that we use within our community. We meet with them in meetings face to face, email, as well as Zoom, social media, and then those just keeping that communication open is important. Again, we have to be able to let them know between school, home, and then what's happening, what's going on with the Central Kansas Mental Health. As my job as a behavior specialist, it's hard catching those therapists when they are in and out of our buildings. So I rely a lot on email to be able to be in contact with them, sharing information as well as gaining information from there with students that we have in common. So that is a biggie, as well as attending wraparound meetings for those students. Diverse community members, we don't have a lot, as I shared in a previous presentation. Obviously, we would want to meet face to face. Definitely think that just helps set the right tone for those people who are coming from a more diverse background. Obviously, we have our school websites and our social medias. Phone calls we have used, as well as I've done one before with having a translator on a Zoom meeting with us to reach out to them. I think that as our school grows and we start to see more of that, then we're definitely going to have to invest more time into that communication. So that kind of gives you an overall look at our internal versus our external communication here at Abilene Schools and Kennedy Primary specifically. When evaluating our district's usage of internal and external publics, as I've stated throughout, we most often tend to regularly use multiple means of communication. Communications that's used is based on the situation, the people involved, as well as the urgency of the situation. Internally, the preference is meeting face to face when possible, as this is the easiest way to accurately communicate. If there's not an opportunity to meet face to face, then typically our internal communication usually relies on email, those daily announcements, or text messaging, as those are the quickest ways to get information to our entire internal public. As mentioned before, the source of communication depends on the audience and the urgency of that situation. While we would prefer to communicate face to face with the external public, we oftentimes tend to rely on those phone calls and digital distribution through social media or school websites and district messaging, as well as written communication. And I think that that's important to really recognize, because we have a population of parents who are working class, as well as who are more of those white collar. So we have to find what works for our parents so that they do feel involved and they do feel like we are communicating with them. And so that requires us to be diverse in how we're reaching them and meeting those needs and communicating. So when we look at which publics communicate the most about the current and future success and well-being of students within our district, I felt like our faculty was very keyed in on this. I appreciate the school that I'm in because we are very much student first. We look at the whole child, not just the academics, and making sure that we are meeting every need within their school day. We also are lucky to have our parents pretty involved within that future success and well-being as well. At that pre-K 1 building, we still very much have parents a part of our daily activities, with whether that be um, volunteering or just coming in the school and having lunch. Our administrators do a nice job of also advocating and supporting our faculty in taking that student-centered approach, as well as our school board and our classified staff. Engaging families, diverse community members, school personnel to strengthen learning. I feel like the people who are most do the most with that are our faculty, our parents, talking with one another, creating those site council and those opportunities to communicate with one another, as well as our administrators. Um, Supporting school improvement. Again, I'm going to fall back on our faculty. We definitely have a strong support there in knowing what we want and having a vision that we want to work towards. Our parents are also invested in that. We have a strong community within the Abilene community, and that is definitely something in the past that we have seen through our bonds that have been passed, as well as improvements to the different facilities that we are in. We've had add-ons to buildings, as well as built a new 4-5 building a few years back. Administrators have also done a nice job of promoting what we need within our schools. Students, again, getting them involved and having them be a part of supporting that school improvement, as well as our school board is definitely another one who communicates about improving schools. Advocating for needs of their school and community. Again, faculty is at the top of my list. Definitely have teachers who are invested, as well as support staff who are invested in advocating for our school. Our parents, we have a select group of parents that are very active and definitely hear their voice and make their voice heard within our community. Our administrators, again, represent those needs of each individual school. Our site councils are another avenue for us that are able to come in and help brainstorm ideas when we are faced with needs of possible things we could do to meet that need. And then our school board, again, is another one who definitely supports and listens to what their faculty is telling them and then trying to meet those needs. So, who should be more involved? With current and future success and well-being of students, I definitely feel that teachers can always be more involved. That's something that we just have to strive to do because we are always going to be faced with tough students as well as different students. And so we always have to be striving to meet the needs of our students so that we are making sure that we are addressing that current as well as the future success. And again, I'm going to go back to that it's not only the academic success of our students, but also our emotional needs, our family needs, and our all around student needs. Parents, I would love to see more involved. Again, we are lucky at the level that I'm at that we have quite a bit of parent involvement, but there's still a handful of students who don't have that support at home, whose bags go unchecked and kind of fall under the radar. So I would really like to see that. And again, I think that starts with education of parents and just helping them to be successful is going to help their students to be more successful. I would love to see our students more engaged in their current and future success. And maybe I don't see this as much at our K-1 building, but in even thinking towards our older students, it's definitely something that I think we can teach them to understand that they can play a big part in their current and future success. And it's just getting them to understand that and take control and advocate for themselves. Paras are another, I believe, should be more involved because they are on ground level, working throughout the day, seeing the different um, teachers throughout the building, working with different students. So I think they have a lot of input that they could give that would be help our current and future success of our students. Most definitely, some of the best ideas that I had as a teacher came from a para not being afraid to put it out there and communicating openly as a team and working together to make things better for our students. So, who should be more involved in engaging families and diverse community members, school personnel to strengthen learning? Definitely parents. And I feel like a lot of times when we have parents that come from more of that diverse community, they tend to shy away. Maybe they haven't had a good experience with school, or maybe they haven't had the schooling that others have had, and so they tend to shy away. I think that there's power there. They know their child best, and it's definitely a way that, or definitely a means that we need to make sure that they are being involved. Administrators, thinking of different ways that we can reach all families is really important in an area that I know we actually my assistant superintendent just talked to me today about how do we engage parents more with two-way communication. And so I was excited to hear that because they are seeing that there is a need. We just need to be more active and think outside of the box of how to engage those families. Faculty, definitely engaging families, reaching out to them, being an open door of communication with those parents, with those families, and helping bridge those gaps where there are parts that are missing, as well as community groups. What can we do within our communities that can help engage our families more? Are there groups that can help support that, and so that we can strengthen learning within our community? I think that community members definitely could be more involved with supporting school improvement, especially those who aren't parents anymore or don't have students within the schools. I think that within our community, I see that as being an area of definite need because they tend to not have as much input and kind of forget what it's like to have students within our buildings. And so it would just give a different perception to school improvement, and maybe as well as give some outside ideas that, when we get in education, we kind of get stuck in our education world, and there's a lot more out there. And I think some great ideas can come from those who are separate from our internal communications. Parents are another one who can definitely support school improvement and can be more involved, um, as well as students, and understanding that they too have a voice, which rolls right into advocating for needs of their school and community. Again, students, making it known what they need so that we can better support them, asking them what they need, and involving them in those processes of surveying and talking to them. Parents is another way that we can definitely advocate for needs, listen to them, invite them into meetings to where we can have that communication. And the more parents we have as support, the greater our advocating for our needs, as well as the greater our school improvement. Community residents, again, like I talked about, in supporting that school improvement, can definitely go a long ways with advocating for our needs in school community, but they have to have communication and understanding of what's happening within our schools. And so that's an area where we need to continue to foster and get them involved, invite them into the schools, along with our community groups, and businesses. We have a great community that supports us, but I think that there's always more that we can do, to make sure that we are reaching all families as well as all residents within our community. And again, them just bringing different ideas to light. So that concludes my presentation as far as who I feel should be involved within our external communication and our internal communication, as well as who needs to be advocating for those students and that community. I look forward to listening to all of your other districts, and presentations, just to see and compare the differences between our different perspectives. Thanks.